Hey, what's up everyone, Bloodsplat here, and today I have a Frost Mage PvP macros guide and list for Warlords of Draenor. Now this is actually an updated macros guide. For those of you that might have watched my older video, I actually made a macros guide back in March of 2014, but at least in WoW terms that's like ages ago, because now Warlords of Draenor has been out for a few months. That macros guide was made back in March when Mists of Pandaria was still out. So since then my macros have changed quite a lot, and it's come to the point where I think they're at a stable state where you can trust these macros, and I definitely suggest using them. Now there are some macros in my list that might be they're not as important. I just have them in there because I prefer using them. Most macros aren't as much self-preference. Most mages and most classes just use the same macros throughout, but you will see some of the macros on my list that you can kind of get away without using, or you might want to change it up a bit. So just take that into account. I will mention what kind of macros those are and how important each and every one is. Make sure to go into detail, so just take that into account. I like going into detail and making sure you guys totally understand. And if you have any questions, you can leave them down below in the comment section, and I will make sure to do my best to answer them in the best way possible. So other than that, let's get right into the list. So first macro is the Ice Block macro. Now this is a mage specific macro, as you guys know, and that is because it uses Ice Block obviously, but I have two factors that are very important in this macro, and that is the /stop casting. The /stop casting is it's straightforward. It will make it so I stop casting whatever I'm casting, because Ice Block is something you want to cast urgently and not waste any time on. So it'll make it so you instantly cast Ice Block without any issues and get it off without having to interrupt yourself, which would cost you a game, since if you didn't have this macro you would have to move or interrupt your character in any way, like whenever you're casting a Frostbolt or something, and then Ice Block, which is more time from you being able to get that Ice Block off, and you might die in that time, who knows. And the second factor in this macro is the /cast ! Ice Block. Will make it so you could spam Ice Block as much as you want without canceling it. Now in the past, when I didn't have this macro, I would, a lot of times mages will spam Ice Block because they're in a very, very intense situation where they are just about to die and they're trying to get Ice Block off as much as they want. What will happen is that you will accidentally, a lot of times, hit Ice Block once again after already casting it, and then accidentally cancel it, which could really screw you over and has lost me games in the past when I didn't have this macro big time, and I'm talking big time. So definitely pick this up, because I would cancel Ice Block by accident by spamming it so much, and yeah, I would just be dead because I'm not an Ice Block anymore, and I only made use of my Ice Block for like 0.1 milliseconds or whatever it was. So anyways, suggest you picking that up. And by the way, the list of macros, there will be a link down below to a pastebin link, an updated pastebin link with all these macros down there, so you can copy and paste whichever macro you want. Our second one is a CS macro. Now this will make it so it will stop casting. All it does, it will cast Counterspell on your target, but I also have a stop casting in this, since, as I mentioned before, these urgent abilities like Counterspell, like Ice Block, where you want to get them off as soon as possible and not waste any time. You want to be able to, not have to worry about anything else. You just want to be able to hit this macro, hit this ability, and get it off instantly, no matter what you're doing. So if I'm in the middle of a Frostbolt cast, I don't have to interrupt myself. I can just use this ability. It will automatically interrupt my Frostbolt for me and cast Counterspell on the target. Now, our Focus Counterspell macro does exactly the same thing. Now, except it casts, pretty much straightforward. It will cast Counterspell on your focus target, and I actually use this macro a lot. Whenever you have a healer on your focus and you want to interrupt an important cast, such as a priest like that is casting Flash Heal, you might want to hit this target, hit this ability, and use Counterspell on that target without having to target them. You could just have them on your focus. Or for example, a Destro Lock has important casts like Chaos Bolt. You can just have that Destro Lock on your focus and hit this macro whenever you want to cast interrupt on him, whenever he's going to cast a Chaos Bolt or something, or a Fear, something like that, without having to target him. And of course, you have the stop casting there as well. Now, this one is a Focus Deep Freeze, a Focus Deep Freeze macro. all it's going to do is it's going to cast Deep Freeze on your focus target. I like to have this macro, very important, because nowadays Deep Freeze isn't just used to, you know, burst into a particular target and get some Ice Lance procs off them. It's actually a very useful CC, about a 5-second CC, and very useful CC to chain other types of CCs. So for example, I might Deep Freeze a certain target and have them, and then that will easily make it so while they are Deep Freeze, I can get a full polymorph on them, or you know, or maybe my druid might be able to get a full cyclone on them, or whatever it is. So it's very useful for chain CC because it lasts about 5 seconds. They can't do anything while in the Deep Freeze, they have to stay still. So it's nice to chain CC using Deep Freeze, and chain CC is very critical and important when trying to win games in arena, especially at high rated. You want to make sure you have some efficient, well done chain CC in your arena group. Now this one is a focus Spellsteal macro, and this will make it so you cast Spellsteal on your focus target. That's all it does, and it also makes it so you cancel or a Hand of Sacrifice. So whenever you you know, are versing a paladin and you happen to steal Hand of Sacrifice, it makes it so it cancels that buff first before any other one. So it's really nice to have, and that goes in combo with our Spellsteal macro, which all it does is it casts Spellsteal onto your target, but as I mentioned before, it also cancels your Hand of Sacrifice buff from you. So that's good to have, and I suggest having it in your macro itself. Our next one is a Healthstone macro, very simple. No matter what class you play, you should have this. Whenever you are playing with a Warlock, you might have some Healthstones in your group, and you want to be able to use those Healthstones in some particular way without having to go to your bags and then finding the Healthstone. I mean, you're dead by that time. So you have this macro just so you can hit it whenever you want, and it will make it so you use your Healthstone if you happen to have any. So right now it's a question mark just because I don't have any Healthstones with me, but whenever I do, this will show up as a Healthstone icon, and I just have it bound to Shift V. You can bound it to whatever you want, and it's on my action bars here on the right. So our next one is an Ice Lance macro, and I really like this because, as I mentioned before, with the Ice Block macro, you know, one of the first macros I mentioned, I don't cancel my Ice Block through spamming Ice Block, because that wouldn't be very efficient. It will lead to me accidentally canceling Ice Block many times. So all I've done, and what a lot of mages have done, is they've actually bound slash cancel aura Ice Block onto a different ability. So, you know, some mages have it to Frostbolt, I just happen to have it on Ice Lance, whatever you want, and it will make it so whenever you're on an Ice Block and you happen to want to cancel your Ice Block on purpose, of course, not by accident, as I mentioned before, you can just simply hit that ability and it will cancel your Ice Block for you. So if I'm in an Ice Block and I just hit my Ice Lance bind, because I bounded it to this Ice Lance macro, it will just automatically cancel Ice Block for me. So I like it. That's the best method, I believe, in using your Ice Block efficiently while also being able to cancel it whenever you want. Now this macro is a very important macro for Warlords of Draenor, particularly because it has to do with Ice Nova, which was a talent added in Warlords of Draenor. And if you guys want a very serious and very, you know, useful explanation on how Ice Nova is used in your burst rotation, since it's pretty much all your burst revolves around Ice Nova, I suggest you guys checking out my burst guide. It was made quite a while ago, but it's still, you know, it still revolves around the same idea, which is why I haven't updated it yet, because you can still use that guide and it is still very useful. So I will leave a link to my burst guide in the description below to, you know, for you guys to check that out and see how I use Ice Nova. But Ice Nova is basically your hard-hitting spell. It's gonna hit the hardest for Frost Mages, and this what Ice Nova does is, I don't know why Blizzard added this feature, I have no idea, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys rather than trying to explain it. So here we have, I'm going to just drag the normal Ice Nova onto my bars, if I can find it here. Oh, let's drag from the talents. There we go. So I have it on my bars here, as you can see right here. I've just dragged it onto my bars. Now that is the normal Ice Nova ability, and then I have my macro right here at the bottom that is bound to 7, and that is my macro itself. And here's the normal ability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast the normal abilities first and then show you guys what the macro does. So if I use the normal ability, it will make it so I cast Ice Nova on myself, which is absolutely useless. I mean, pretty much every time you want to use Ice Nova, you want to use it on whoever you're targeting. So when you're not targeting anyone, it will make it so you cast Ice Nova on yourself, which is useless. You don't really want that, since it just leaves you to accidentally using your Ice Nova. If you happen to press it by accident without having a target, it will just use it on yourself. Useless. So as you can see, this is just using normal ability. It casts it on myself. No point. Just no point, because it's rarely ever gonna help you. Pretty much every time you use Ice Nova, you want to be able to use it on your target. So even if there is a melee right on you, you could just target that melee and then hit Ice Nova then. So I don't know why Blizzard added that feature. They should just remove it. But that is okay. There is no fear, because we have this macro. Slash cast, brackets harm, and bracket Ice Nova, and this will make it so you don't accidentally use Ice Nova on yourself. So it will make it so unless you have an enemy targeted, you won't be able to hit Ice Nova on yourself. So you can see I'm spamming Ice Nova as much as I want with this macro right now, and it's not casting Ice Nova on myself at all. I'm just spamming it. It will only work if I have an enemy targeted. So I suggest picking it up. Very nice macro to have, leads to many mistakes not being made. The next macro is an Arcane Intellect / Dalaran Brilliance macro. What this macro is going to do is it's going to make it so you can cast Dalaran Brilliance on yourself primarily, and it will target, and it will also cast Dalaran Brilliance to whoever is in your party as well, of course. So you don't have to choose a target every time whenever you hit the normal Arcane Brilliance or Dalaran Brilliance ability. So that's why I have this macro. Now this one is an invisibility macro. I'm not sure if it actually works, or this is updated for Warlords of Draenor, but it definitely worked in Warlords of Draenor. I mean MoP and Mists of Pandaria, and might still work in Warlords of Draenor as well. I just haven't checked the difference, but it will make it so that annoying foggy purple like bluish effect. Whenever you cast invisibility, it will make it so it takes that effect away completely, and I hated that effect. I hated it absolutely so much, and a lot of mages did, because I actually found this macro from another mage, and a lot of people use it. It will make it so it takes that effect completely away. As I said, correct me if I'm wrong, if it takes that effect away in Warlords of Draenor, I believe there is still quite a small low effect, as you saw. But it pretty much takes that annoying bluish foggy effect that looked really disgusting, and yeah, made it harder while you're in invisibility. But anyways, that's what that macro will do. No need for that macro. Alright, so here we go. Last four macros. The Frozen Orb macro, excuse me, it's pretty much your burst macro. So even though Ice Nova is your hard hitting ability, pretty much every time whenever you're going ham, you want to be able to use Frozen Orb before you hit your Ice Nova. So if you want to check my burst guide, as I said, you can go check that out. But all it's going to do is it's going to make it so before you cast Frozen Orb, it'll make it so you can use your unused trinkets. So for me, for example, I have the Primal Combatant's Badge of Dominance as my unused trinket. Whatever you have as your unused trinket. For example, this one increases your versatility by 381 for 20 seconds. And it will make it so it uses my unused trinket, and then after that, of course, use Frozen Orb. So if I hit it, for example, see it cast Frozen Orb, and it also casts my unused trinket on the top right here. So it's nice to have, because it's pretty much your burst, so you don't have to also use your unused trinket, which is just pointless wasting time, because pretty much every time you use Frozen Orb, you want to be able to use your unused trinket as well. Alright, this macro is too complicated. Don't get used to it. I got used to it. I'm pretty much, old school kind of thing with this thing, but Blizzard have made it way easier. The reason why I still have it is because I've gotten used to it. I don't suggest you guys getting used to it, because it just makes things way more complex. All I suggest you guys doing is going to your keybinds. I believe they have it in your keybinds now. Go to your targeting section, scroll down, go to your focus target here, and binding that to something. So binding that to anything you want to have as your bind to focus a particular target, whoever you're targeting. And then with that said, just having that bound, hitting that whenever you want to focus a particular target. And then in combo with that, we'll keep on going to my interface, go to your macros, and then go and make sure you have all those focus macros as I mentioned. So have one for like Spellsteal, Counterspell, as I mentioned, /cast, target equals focus, Counterspell, and of course Polymorph. Now ignore all of this, just pretty much copy what this one says, except the stop casting part, and put /cast, target equals focus, Polymorph, for example. Now, don't you worry, it's not going to be complex at all, because I will have, as I said, a pastebin link down below, which will have all of the updated macros, and I will make sure to add that in there so you can pretty much just copy and paste without having to think at all. So yeah. And now we have a remove curse macro, very useful in arena. So this will make it so you can cast remove curse on a particular target that whoever's name you select. I just have a bunch here from all the times I've played with different healers in arena. You can pretty much add as much as you want, but I suggest clearing up your list every now and then. And I just have the names of my healers and stuff in this list, so I make it sure it will make it so I can use this macro, and then it will cast remove curse on that particular target without having to target them. So for example, in an arena where a shaman casts hex on my healer, or on a certain someone in my arena team, and if I have their name in this macro, without having to waste time and make it so they have to sit extra seconds in that hex, I can just easily hit that macro and without having to target them and think, and it will decurse them instantly, so they don't they don't spend more time in that hex than they should, since they want to be able to get out of the hex as soon as possible, and you don't have to think about targeting them and targeting the right target and everything, and then hitting the ability, because that just wastes an extra 1 or 2 seconds. So yeah, that's why I have this macro. Very nice to have. And I already mentioned the Spellsteal macro earlier when I mentioned the focus Spellsteal. All it does is it's gonna target your spell. It's gonna cast Spellsteal on your target, but also cancel Hand of Sacrifice from your buffs. But other than that, that has been my macros guide, guys. I hope you guys have found it very useful, helpful, and maybe even enjoyable. If you did, make sure to leave this video a like, a comment down below, and subscribe. And one more thing, guys, I just wanted to mention, I might have mentioned it in my last video as well. Definitely go check me out on Twitch. I've been trying to push my Twitch a lot. I suggest you guys going to check it out there, because I'm growing on Twitch. I'm trying to make it so it interweaves with my YouTube as well. So I have a divided focus on my YouTube and Twitch, because I see that a lot of streamers for World of Warcraft at least are having some great success on Twitch, and a lot of you guys really enjoy that live streaming content. So I suggest you guys going over there, follow, so it notifies you whenever I go live, and we can hang out. I do a lot of battlegrounds with viewers, arenas, all that kind of stuff. If you want any tips, any questions to be answered, whenever I'm live, I will make sure to answer them, and we can just very much just hang out, guys. So it will be twitch.tv/BSG Entertainment. There will be a link in the description down below. As always, there is one. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.